What's up, everybody? Welcome back to your favorite New York Jets subscription podcast, Badlands. I'm your host, Joe Caporoso. Extended Tuesday AM coffee. I missed Sunday AM coffee because I was traveling. I was actually down at the Jersey Shore with some of my college buddies, which is why my voice does not sound great. But we're fighting through it, and we're ready to talk Jets for 20 to 30 minutes. There's a good amount of Discord questions in here that I want to speak on, and a couple good and creative ones. I'm going to save most of my week one Rodgers takes for when Connor and I record tomorrow. We'll have our normal pod Tuesday night. We'll have War Room Wednesday. Keep the questions coming. So we got that much more to discuss. Listen to the other guys today. Incredibly fun episode. Great job by Paul and Jake on the concept of the most forgettable Jets, and a lot of hate, playful hate, sport hate flowing through that pod. Go give that a listen. Your requisite PSA live show, August 23rd. Tickets at badlandstoj.com. I'll have the link in the bio. We are now up to 2 sponsors, including our good friends from Budweiser who will be involved again. So Stout, Grand Central, please buy your ticket. There's that much more we can do with the more of you who get involved. So going to be a fun way to get you ready for week one because it is the day after the last preseason game. So 2-ish weeks of hype for Rodgers at MetLife. 1 p.m. We're also going to have something fun for that game in the parking lot. We'll have more information on that in July. Anyway, enough PSA rambling for your Tuesday AM coffee. I'm going to open the Discord. Dion Waitress, from a purely roster standpoint, where would you rank the Jets 1 to 32, and how much higher would you have them than 29? There was a power poll, I think it was in Fox Sports today, that had the Jets at 29. My guess is this is a relatively common range for them in a lot of national power rankings. Somewhere in the low 20s. Some people might even have them at 31 or 32. Their win total is right at the bottom in Vegas right now. Now, the easiest way to do this is just go team by team and see sort of where the Jets generally sit. So, there's people that I think they are better than on paper, and there's people that I think it's a discussion. And let's see how far off 29 is before any games are played. So Buffalo, I think better than them without much of a debate. Miami, New England, I think it's a discussion if the Jets are not as good as both of those teams, but I understand comfortably putting, not comfortably, but putting Miami ahead just based on their win total last year and how they've played against the Jets. New England, a little more projection forward hype. I think it's much closer to a coin flip on Jets-Dolphins and Jets-Patriots. That's going to sound like a homer to some. I don't think it's crazy if national rankings have the Dolphins or the Pats ahead of the Jets right now. The Jets are just going to have to go beat them to prove it otherwise, right? You go into the North. I like the Jets situation better than the Browns situation right now. Everybody else is going to be ranked ahead of them, although I think the Steelers roster is closer to the Jets than most people want to admit. But they do have Mike Tomlin, and they do make the playoffs every goddamn year, and the Jets never make the playoffs. So, of course, Pittsburgh is going to start the year ranked ahead of them. Get to the South. I don't know. I'm not really sold that the Colts and the Jags are much better than the Jets. I like the Jets better than the Titans this year. Just with the overall situations, the Colts have won more games in recent years. They narrowly beat the Jets last year. I put the Colts and the Jags sort of in that coin flip bucket with the Pats and with the Dolphins. Most places, I'm sure, are going to narrowly have the Colts and Jags ahead. I think it's a discussion. I would have the Jets ahead of the Titans. I would have the Jets ahead of the Browns. You get to the West, I think the Raiders are a discussion. They turned a lot over this year. I think it's in that bucket where it's a coin flip. I'm not going to put the Jets ahead of the Chiefs, Chargers, or Broncos at the moment, although I think the Jets could absolutely steal one in London against the Broncos, who I could see having a little bit of a regression this year. Get to the NFC, a little less important. Other conference, Jets are not competing with these teams for a roster spot. I think in the NFC East, you can make a fair case the Jets are better than the Giants. I think the Jets are in a kind of similar bucket to Dallas, especially with Shoddy as their head coach. Will keep them comfortably behind the defending Super Bowl champs in Washington. In the North, Lions ahead of them. I put the whole North ahead of them right now. I think the Bears are sort of in the coin flip bucket, but Packers, Vikings, Lions, I'd put ahead. South, Saints, I like the Jets better than the Saints. Panthers, I think it's a coin flip. Falcons, I think it's kind of a coin flip too, maybe slightly ahead. And Bucks, I would put ahead of the Jets. You get to the West, I'm not going to put them ahead of anybody. I think maybe the Cardinals is a little bit of a coin flip. Niners, they have some questions, but I got to give them the benefit of the doubt. And not the Rams or the Seahawks at the moment, although the gap to the Seahawks maybe not that extreme, especially if Darnold doesn't meet expectations. This is all kind of a long-winded way of saying that, depending on how you break those coin flips, the Jets are probably somewhere between like 24 and 29. I think 29 is like the lowest end I would put at them. I would probably say it's more like 26, 27 going into the season. And there's a reason their over-under is where it is. They're coming off a year they were bad. They have a rookie head coach. They have a quarterback who has plenty to prove. They have a rookie offensive coordinator. They do have some nice pieces on both sides of the football, but I don't think you get mad if someone has the Jets, somewhere between 25 and 30. I definitely don't think they're 32. I don't think they're 31. I would say they're definitely not 30, but I think the range is probably 24 to 29, and I'd probably put them like 26 off the top of my head after doing that quick run through. And they'll have a chance to very quickly prove that that is too low. They're playing Pittsburgh right away. They're playing Dallas early in the season. They're going to get all their cracks at, Miami and New England. They're going to get to play the NFC South. And I think if the Jets could do something like go 3-1 against the NFC South, you're talking about a team that might be 500, could be hanging around the wild card race. All right, next question over to the Q&A. This one from Christian Lynch. Outside of Olu and Membu, who are the top 5 players from the last 2 draft classes that will have the biggest impact in 2025? All right, we put away our first-round offensive lineman. So the only other name from 2024 that I will put into the mix right now is Braylon Allen. I think Isaiah Davis you can make a bit of a claim for, but if I'm starting with top 5, I think Braylon Allen has the chance to have a nice little bit of a leap behind Breece Hall and will get a lot of opportunities. So I would definitely have him in. Mason Taylor, he's going to start at tight end week 1. He could be second on the team in targets, third on the team in targets behind Garrett and Breece. Let's call it that. Malachi Moore, I think, has a great chance to start right away with the Jets' current safety depth chart. So Taylor and Moore, I look at guys, could be starters right away. Allen, I feel like definitely is going to have a role on the offense. If we were talking 2026 too, I would absolutely have Thomas in this conversation. I just feel like he's definitely not going to start the year out as a starter. So he's a little more back into that Isaiah Davis bucket. But I just think the upside with Thomas is that much more. And if Steven struggles at all or Sauce gets banged up, I feel like Thomas has a chance to really hit the ground running. From a reps perspective, I think Arian Smith will be pretty comparable to Isaiah Davis. So I think he's in that discussion as well. I have very limited expectations for Barron or Kiko this year. I have very limited expectations, bluntly, for Malachi Corley this year. Stiggers, I think, will be a backup. Jalen Key isn't around anymore. Jordan Travis isn't around anymore. You're Joe Douglas special, man. Like, you look at that class past Olu. Corley fighting for a roster spot, whether anyone wants to admit it or not. I mentioned Allen, but he's the number 2 running back. Davis is the number 3 running back. Travis, gone. Stiggers competing for a roster spot, but I think he'll stick, and Key, gone. So I think you're going to see a heavier concentration to 25, where Mason Taylor is the first person that comes to mind because he's absolutely going to start day 1 and be involved heavily. I think Malachi Moore I would put number 2. Then I would put Braylon Allen number 3. And then I think it's a discussion between Arian Smith, Isaiah Davis, and Thomas to see if he can make an impact as a corner at some point in year 1. Good question, though, and a reminder that not a ton of depth in the 2024 draft class, Mr. Joe Douglas. Thank you. This one from Izzy. Who would win a race between Xavier Gibson, Breece Hall, Justin Fields, and Garrett Wilson? Also, who would win a race between me, Connor, Meeg, Stan, Paul, and Will? And as an addendum from JP Waxer, who's more likely to drop the ball on 3rd and 6? Starting with the Jets players, I think straight line fastest. It's not Garrett. That's not like necessarily his bag. It's probably between Gibson and Hall. If Hall's right, is his leg right? I don't know, just a pure straight line race. I'm going to go Xavier Gibson. I think Arian Smith would actually just beat everyone if we're just going pure track race. But if Brees back to a few years ago, I think I'm going Brees. Although I feel like I might be sleeping on Fields a little bit when he gets in the open field because just an absolute athletic freak. For the Badlands guys, it's not going to be me, right? I was slow. The reason I was a D3 receiver, not a D1 AA or D2 receiver, is because I was slow as hell. I ran like a 4.8 40. I would tell people I ran a 4.7, but it was really 4.8. 4.8's slow for any college receiver. However, I could tell you I wasn't dropping a pass on 3rd and 6 because I was a good route runner and could catch everything. I would guess Will would win the race. He's was a college athlete himself, a better college receiver than I was. He's in better shape than I am at this point. I would take him to win the race. So sure, shout out Connor. I think it'd give him a good run for it. I feel like Connor's got more like lateral speed. You know, like take Connor in the box drill or like shuffling, get him going in the wave drill as a DB. But I haven't seen the tape in CR in a while. We haven't played flag football together in like 13 years. So I'm going Will for right now. Great question though. All right, let's see if we can find one more relatively somewhat serious one here. From Captain Kangaroo. What do you think happens and what would you do with AVT? Don't hear much about him anymore and his contract is coming up soon. AVT in some ways is kind of like this forgotten first round pick, right? Because he was taken the same year as Zach Wilson. So of course all the discourse is around Zach Wilson. And then right after you have the year with Sauce Gardner and Garrett Wilson, who were both rookies of the year. Also had Jermaine Johnson in that class and had Brees as like a top 40 pick. So he kind of gets like glazed over. And the Jets since have taken 2 other offensive linemen in the first round with Olu and Membu. And I would guess you would say to date, AVT has been a mild disappointment. It might sound harsh. It's just from the injuries. When he's played, he's been good. His versatility has been incredibly impressive. It wasn't awesome last year, but he's still pretty damn good. And I think if he's that much healthier this year, the Jets are going to let that play out, right? Like, is he going to show that he can stay healthy for 16, 17 games? Then I think they will proactively get something done. The injuries have been really frustrating prior to that because this is a guy who can play any position on the offensive line. And when he settles into guard, I think has the potential and talent to be one of the best guards in the NFL. We just haven't gotten enough games yet, right? So I don't think it was a bad pick. I liked the pick at the time. I mocked the pick to them. I'm a fan of the player, and you just saw the glimpses of just how talented and dominant and versatile he could be. And then it was just injury. I wouldn't say he was quite himself last year. He's going to be a real interesting guy to watch this year. If he is playing at the peak of his powers, that offensive line really has the potential to be truly one of the best in the NFL because there's just so much young talent on it overall. So a good question on a guy that, we probably don't talk about enough. I did get a kick out of some of the different predictions that were flowing through. I just threw it out randomly on Twitter throughout the weekend just to have people give their any one prediction for the Jets season. And I'm going to throw these out all throughout the summer. The quick 2 ones I gave was Breece Hall having 1,000 yards rushing. I just think the opportunities will be there and he'll stay healthy enough to get it done as he's approaching a contract year. And I said the Jets will go 3-1 against the NFC South. I think they're going to beat the Saints. I think they're going to beat the Panthers. And I think they'll split with the Falcons and Bucks. So that was my 2. And I think I just like how they match up. And most of the predictions that came back, most of them are around Fields, right? And him sort of exceeding expectations. And that makes sense. If you're trying to be an optimistic Jet fan, it's the key to this team being that much more fun and entertaining is Fields having this surprisingly productive Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold year. And it won't be the same way because he just plays so different than those guys. But him putting together the best parts we've seen of him as a runner with more productive passing thanks to the offense that Engstrand runs and having Garrett Wilson and having Breece Hall and having Mason Taylor and having a good offensive line. So, looking at some of the stat predictions, that's sort of the big outstanding question for the Jets, right? Is Fields, because he's going to throw for 3,700 yards or 3,500 yards with 25 touchdowns and 8 or 9 interceptions, but then also run for 900 yards. is that way too high of an estimate on the passing? Is he just going to be a guy who's throwing for like 150 yards a game and he's like barely getting over 3,000 or not getting to 3,000 and he's going to not throw a lot of interceptions but fumble the ball a lot? Let's hope not, right? Let's hope that in this offense and in this system, he is dynamic and the Jets are able to do certain unique things with him and Brees and Braylon and Isaiah Davis and Mason Taylor blocking and this offensive line with Membu and Olu and AVT and Simpson and Tippmann blocking that make them really difficult to defend. So it's just interesting to see the range of opinions on him, and generally how you feel about Justin Fields is probably how you feel about the Jets' chances to be feisty this season. All right, that's going to wrap Tuesday AM Coffee pod tonight, War Room tomorrow morning. Get those questions in the Discord, badlandstoj.com for the live show. I think the last time I checked, we are at somewhere in the mid 70s have already got tickets. And considering the event is 2.5 months away, that's pretty good. Obviously, all of us are also going to be there. So we're going to have at least 100 people in the room to start, which is pretty good. I expect plenty more to come in. Sounds like our friend John Yastrzemski is going to swing by and hang. We are talking to our different friends on the beat about coming by to hang. Who doesn't want to have a beer with Samini and Costello? And we, of course, hope to have Zach and Hughes there again as well. Antoine will be there hanging out. The more people we can get from the greater Jets beat media family, the better to hang with all of us Jet fans and members of the Badlands community. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Thank you for the Discord questions, and we will talk to you soon.